We look at lightsaber duels and why they suck so much.
This is the Kitsune clan, a group of sword enthusiasts who like cosplay, reenactment, and historical martial arts. If you have similar interests, feel welcomed.
We all love lightsabers, right? Because they are the single pop culture thing that relates to a really, really cool weapon that everybody can recognize. Aren't these things cool? Yes, they are. Question is, if these things are so cool, why? Why do so many lightsaber duels that we can find, especially on YouTube, look so bad? The answer is really, really simple. It's not our fault. It's not the fault of the people doing it because they do their best, they give their best, they give all their hard content into it. But they have one big problem. They, including us, we are using the wrong lightsabers. We are using props as a simulator for lightsabers, and the props we are using are not the ones we should be using, and that causes the problems. And that's why so many lightsaber duels, basically all of them, including what we are doing here, suck. What's the problem? So, most of us have probably started with toy lightsabers, with these telescoping things that are available everywhere and you see everywhere, and we have tried to fight with them, and the problem is if we give some force into them, they break. Right? And it says that if even specifically on the handles, there are often small stickers where it says don't put too much force on these things because they break. This is even more true for the 3D printed stuff. We get 3D printed lightsabers now everywhere, and they can take even less beating than the toys that you can get, for example, from Hasbro. And the problem is this trains us, of course, in a certain way to do these lightsaber duels. And now you will say, yeah, but we have, of course, the much cooler polycarbonate lightsabers, and still these things break. If you have not broken one, I have broken some. And you can see that these things break because you can get these so-called blades as a repair tool, so they seem to break also on other people. I know there are now these new really, really cool ones that claim not to break, but believe me, we can make every of these break, and that's something that has taught us to be a bit more careful, not to put too much force into our strikes, and you can see that. And that's one of the major problems. Even if we dare to put some force into our attacks, and then we land in the so-called bind, and we try to push against each other, as they do in the movies and in the animated series and in the computer games, we have another problem with our props, because whatever we are using, and I think most of us will be using polycarbonate types of lightsaber simulators, they slide. And that's the surface of these things, they slide. And that's a major problem because if you look at the movies, lightsabers don't slide. I know there's a lot of discussion about some of the specific scenes, for example, when Obi-Wan fought against General Grievous, but I think most of us agree there is no sliding, and we know from Rebels, for example, that there's also a certain attraction. So I have seen this discussion whether lightsabers are sticky. Maybe sticky is not the right term, but if they're in bind, they shouldn't slide, and our props do slide, and that's a major problem to get lightsaber duels as we would like to have them. There are already two major problems, and they lead to a lot of the things that we see as so much deriving from what we used to have. We have other, maybe not so major problems, but they come also from the nature of the props. For example, these polycarbonate lightsabers, they hurt. If you strike somebody with this type of lightsaber, it hurts. And that's another aspect why we don't go with full force, and that's why we are more careful, and that's also why it looks not so good in a lot of the duels. So this is a positive thing. That's because we don't want to hurt our partners with which we are fighting or making a show or whatever. So that's very natural, but you can definitely see it. It also leads to the fact that we don't do some of the stuff that you can see in the movies and in the series. For example, we don't throw. We don't throw our lightsabers. And why? Because the handles. Because the handles are made out of metal, and a lot of these handles have rather pointy parts. And that's in fact not only a problem when throwing, it's also sometimes a problem in infight. In theory, there are techniques where you can use the handle to hook and to strike, and you see that from time to time in some videos, but very, very careful. It's simply a problem that these things are so heavy, so hard, and so pointy. So the fact that the lightsabers hurt definitely changes the way we duel with them. And then there's of course a major problem that only comes up when you really want to train lightsaber fencing, and that a lot of the collectors are very, very fond of and very, very keen of, and that's all the electronics built into it. I know people love it when they take the lightsabers into the hand and they go swoosh, swoosh. But guys, if you are training with these, this is super, super annoying. And that's one of the factors, I think, why a lot of people are not really training with their lightsabers a lot. Because it's fun for 5 minutes, but not if you do it for an hour. Also, with all the electronics that is now built into these handles, we have sometimes the problem that by accident in a show, we switch the color, or we switch it off, or we switch to the wrong sound. And you know what I mean. We all had that already. It's in fact pretty annoying for what we want to do with them. What has been focused on the development, instead of having lightsabers with which we can properly duel, a lot of development has been going into these high-end electronics that make the things rather gimmicky and, as I said, annoying. Coupled to this electronics and gimmickiness and whatever is the problem that these things are too expensive. They're super, super overpriced. Lightsabers are too expensive. And that's again then the problem. That's why we treat them much more carefully than we should, because these are weapons, right? And they should be used like weapons, and they should be used in a way that we can survive a fight, but we are careful for our weapons because we don't want to break them, we don't want to scratch them. As I said, we don't want to hurt our opponent, but we also don't want to damage our lightsabers. And so these are really, really downsides. And even if you don't buy any of these arguments, there is one major problem that makes a lot of the shows look so bad, and that's these lightsabers, these polycarbonate lightsabers, but also the expanding tube-like things, they cannot be easily combined with anything else. You cannot take a Beskar lens that is made out of polypropylene, because that will definitely destroy your polycarbonate tubes. I can guarantee you that. You can also not take the typical cosplay or LARP weapons, because you know what? We've tried that, and the polycarbonate lightsabers damage the LARP and cosplay weapons, and the cosplay weapons especially, they leave marks on the polycarbonate tubes that are really, really hard to remove, and that makes them look very ugly, and a lot of people therefore avoid that. Which means for polycarbonate, we are basically bound of lightsaber versus lightsaber. And a lot of the stuff that we would like to see, so against energy lands and whatever, this is really tricky to perform. And this is again a problem with the metal parts of the lightsabers. We don't want to strike with the polycarbonate tube of the lightsaber against the metal part of the lightsaber, right? So if you would use an energy lens that is made out of more metal, we don't want to strike there, and that makes the whole fight scene then somehow not feeling real. So what's this rant about? Yes, I think we would love to have better lightsaber duels. We all would like to have. But the most lightsabers we get are not well made for these. And this is our limitation. We can try to actively go against that and concentrate on these aspects. But we can also explore other types of lightsabers. And we will do that in some future videos. For the moment, greetings to all out there that perform lightsaber fencing. I still think it's fun and worth doing it. And as I said, they suck, the lightsaber duels, but it's not your fault, it's the fault of your lightsaber. Hope you can agree on that. If not, please discuss with us. We hope we could inspire you with these ideas, and hope to see you around next time.